I'd like to call to order Monday, September 9th, regular council meeting. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and stay standing for the invocation? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lord, we honor your name and give thanks for all the blessings you bestow upon our city. We ask for your spiritual guidance while walking the pathway of our many, many opportunities. Give us foresight and wisdom in our decision making. And Lord, we thank you for our hardworking staff and ask special blessings of good health placed over them and their families. Protect our public safety and our troops serving all over the world. We pray for their safe return. In your name, amen.
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 All right, roll call. We're all at the table tonight. Are we ready? Ready? All right, thank you. Communications tonight, we have one communications, and Katie Wilkin, Planner 3, and Guyleen Orzanski, Arts and Culture Coordinator, will present Goodyear's 2025 Community Art Contest. Ladies, we're anxious.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We are pleased to be here tonight. We just wanted to make a quick announcement about a partnership between the General Plan Committee and the Arts and Culture Commission with the General Plan Update. We've been hearing a lot during the General Plan Update about the importance of art and culture to our community, and so there will be an element within the general plan on that subject. And then we had the idea, what better way to show that this is important to our community than to feature a piece of art created by a Goodyear artist on the cover of the general plan. It also saves me some work because then I don't have to do something for the cover of the general plan. And so we are opening this community art contest to Goodyear residents. They can submit up to 5 images of 2D or 3D artwork. As long as they're able to create an image of their artwork, they can submit it. We have brochures out with the agendas if anyone here tonight is interested in participating on how to submit and the information about that. The entry deadline is November 8th. And then there will be a jury made up of council members, members of the Art and Culture Commission, and members of the General Plan Committee. The other thing that's exciting about this is the grand prize winner will receive $500, who will be on the cover of the general plan. We'll also choose $100 winners that will be used for the chapter covers, and one of those will be a public chosen art piece. We're going to get the submittals on our Goodyear Connect site, and then members of the community can go on and vote for their favorite. So one of the art pieces will receive the special prize of their public chosen, and so we'll get council the details on how to vote and participate in that once we have it up and running.
That's fantastic.
So that concludes. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think you summed it up. It's a great opportunity to, really promote the general plan and support us becoming a hub of arts and culture for the West Valley.
Yes.
So we're really looking forward to the submittals.
Council comment.
I think it's a wonderful idea. Thank you, Guyleen, for coming up with this with Katie, because I know how important it is to you, but this really will put the Arts and Cultural Committee, as well as the desire of the council, to show that we are interested in the arts, and we do want to be a hub for that. So thanks, and thank you for keeping it only to Goodyear residents. That's really important. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go on to citizens' comments and appearances from, I have two, okay, so I have two, were you asking something?
No, I was just going to.
Okay, I have 2 speaker cards, so before I call the first speaker up, I want you to be aware, and I think one of the speakers is fully aware of that, that we may respond to your criticism, we may ask staff to investigate, and we may be able to reschedule this item for the future agenda. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. The yellow light and the buzzer will let you know you have 30 seconds left to speak, and before you begin, please speak and identify yourself by clearly stating for the record your name and address. So the first one on tonight is Joe Husband.
Mayor, that one is for item 7.2.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much. So the second one you gave me?
Yes. That is a non-agenda item.
All right, that one I can do. All right, then Sonoran Parkway, Diane Chaplin. Good evening, Ms. Chaplin.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Stand back here so you can see me.
I'm going to need help with that microphone to, because we have the problem is we have the public.
Does it go down
Why
further?
don't we give her a microphone, because otherwise the
I can
citizens.
shout.
No, the citizens that are listening to you, they won't be able to
Okay.
hear you, and that's most important to us.
Okay, thank you for your time. My name is Diane Chaplin. My address is 19350 West Cordo Lane, Buckeye, Arizona 85326. And I'm speaking on behalf of the Sonoran Parkway. I was unable to make the last meeting, otherwise I would have been here to partake and represent Grandview Ranches and Grandview Ranches too. In essence, you all are making a decision, whereas you have it annexed, but you don't give us anything. We don't have city water, we don't have city anything, but you take it upon yourself to make a decision for us. We moved out there, and now you're ruining my life because my house will be paid for in 3 years, and you're going to take this house that I paid and worked hard for to just mow it down for a parkway, whereas the residents in Estrella ended up saying, and documentation is proven, that they signed knowing that this parkway was a possibility, and they signed that they knew that their house site was a possibility to get ruined. Besides that, the national monument there for Sonora, I'm a native, so it's important to me to preserve all the desert land that we can. And I don't think this is going to really benefit anybody. You're taking care of Mobile, Arizona, which is great. You guys made a choice. They made a choice to move out there, but your contract you can't keep. That's not my fault. You ended up destroying a lot of the people there. There's 100 people just in that area that you're going to destroy their home and residence because of your choices. And I don't think that's quite right. But on the backside of that, you're going to take away from the longhorn sheep, the Sonoran desert tortoise, I should say. And besides that, there's pronghorn that are out there, and I'm getting clarification from Game and Fish. They're an endangered species, so I don't see how this can end up really working for anybody's benefit. You're taking away from the livestock. And somebody in the last meeting documented that they would build a tunnel for the longhorn sheep so they wouldn't get ran over on this parkway. Well, who's going to provide the signage? I mean, that doesn't make any sense, you know? And there's a lot of livestock that's going to get ran over just because of this parkway. For 100 people that are currently there in Mobile, it's not taking care of anything right now. You guys want to expand? Do it on the Estrella side. I don't know where that initial response came from whenever, I mean, that roadway was there, and all of a sudden it's disappeared. There was a councilman that was previously in the line of fire to have his road, you know, that road go through his house, and somewhere that ended up changing. So I don't see how this is accommodating where you're annexed. You don't give us city water. We built our own fire station. We rely on the sheriff's department to give us protection. And then you moved your sign up a little bit. Welcome to Goodyear. It's just before you get to Rainbow. It used to be a football field and a half away. But now you're going to end up saying, oh, well, too bad for Rainbow. I got a 3/4 acre lot, and I paid for it. And I'm almost done. And I thank you.
Thank you very much for coming before. I know that was very difficult, Ms. Chaplin, and I appreciate you coming forth. This is for City Manager. Was there anything of all the minutes that were taken at that meeting, more information, or more where we are that we could send to Ms. Chaplin?
Mayor, one of the things that staff was instructed by council to do for the last meeting was actually outreach with Dee Nasoy. I think I have her last names pronounced correctly. Nasoy? Okay, thank you. And development staff Joe Schmitz did reach out to her with information. So as a direction to do the same with Ms. Chaplin.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now I do need me to request if there's anybody else in the audience. I didn't make that. So is there anybody else that didn't fill out a card that's here tonight that wants to speak? All right, then we'll go on. Let's go on with the consent.
Mayor, if I may.
I just wanted to let you know that the comment period has been extended 30 days.
Would you say that in the microphone so that the public can hear that's listening online?
17 days. The comment period's been extended to September 20th.
All right, so these
So the
people have
BLM would-
another chance to put their opinions in.
Well, they'll have a greater opportunity because they had gotten some comments that they felt there wasn't enough time, so the BLM has extended the comment period.
Oh, great, okay. Thank you. And we're publicizing that date somewhere? Mr. Manager, we publicizing that date somewhere?
We can put it on our website.
Okay, all right, great.
That's
Okay.
what we did last time, and we'll make sure it's still updated.
Good, thank you. All right, now we're ready to go to the consent agenda. Will the city clerk please read consent agenda's items 6.1 to 6.4 by title only, please?
Item 6.1, approve a request from M. Suk Chang, agent applicant for LPLC LLC for a new Series 12 liquor license number 120-79590 for Aso Sushi and Steak located at 15475 West McDowell Road, number 105, generally located near Pebble Creek Parkway, north of I-10 and south of McDowell Road. Item 6.2, approve budget transfers for water recharge projects. Item 6.3, approve a 90-day extension for the Estrella Parcel 5.1 final plat approval, extending the approval date 90 days to November 16, 2013. Item 6.4, number 1, adopt Resolution 13-1570, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute any and all documents necessary to enter into the cooperative agreement between the United States Bureau of Reclamation and the city for implementing a demonstration feasibility project using wetlands for concentrate brine management. Item 2, approve the direct funding of $131,570 from carryover capital improvement plan dollars within project WW1301 to be reallocated to this project, and approve the remainder of the funding match requirement of $168,430 from in-kind services.
Thank you very much. Does anyone from the public wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? All right. Does anyone from the council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Oh,
Mayor?
do I need the presentation first? Is that what? No.
No, Madam Mayor, I apologize. I neglected to inform the clerk that item 6.3 can be withdrawn because the plat has been already recorded before the expiration. So it doesn't require action at this point.
Okay, so 6.3. So I'm going to ask then for the motion for 6.1.
Mayor, can I ask a question on 6.1 rather than pull it?
Sure.
I understand that Mr. Chang now owns the restaurant. In your narrative, you said that it was sold.
Correct.
So was it, who's asking for the license? The person that sold it or the person that bought it?
The applicant is, and I believe she is here if you have more questions. It's just.
Is she the one that bought the restaurant?
I believe so.
Could you come up and just explain that to them a moment?
My name is Megan Gosling, and I'm the general manager of the Aso Sushi and Steak. The person that's trying to obtain the license is the new owner. She, Mrs. Chang, has bought it from the previous owner, and we have changed our LLC and all of our names, so we need to switch over our license.
So you represent the old owner
I
or the
represent
new person?
The new.
You do the new person, so she's the one that's applying for the liquor license.
Correct.
Because the old person didn't have a liquor license or didn't sell it with the business.
They didn't sell it with the business.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and we have no comment from anyone regarding Mrs. Chang like we did.
No, Councilmember Campbell, and also on restaurants, they're not transferable, so
Okay.
that's why they have to go for a new license.
Okay, that answers my question, and I don't want to pull it off, Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Stipp.
Mayor, I have just a statement or comment to make on 6.2. I usually pull these and have these done separate because it's such a large dollar amount. But in this particular item, when we make this motion, it does not indicate exactly the dollar amount. And I just want it clear that it is the $2.4 million of CIP carryover for the water reclamation project. Even though it's noted in here that it's on the attached budget transfer request form, the public does not have an opportunity to see that unless they...
Let's confirm it by staff coming up and making that statement. Did I
Here
ask?
comes Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
2.4 million of CIP transfer for this is the transfer request. Is that correct?
That's correct. That was a total for the 3 reclaimed water expansion projects in the carryover from the CIP.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Okay, then I need a motion for 6.1, 6.2, 6.4, and item 2. Do I hear a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion from Councilman Stiff and a second from Vice Mayor Pizzillo. Any other discussion on this before I ask for a vote? Okay. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Homan?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Great, thank you. We'll go on to the business, and 7.1, we have a special use permit for the River of Life Evangelical Lutheran Church, and we will conduct a public meeting, and we'll consider approving a special use permit to allow the church to use an Estrella shops with the Estrella Crossing Business Park. And now we're going to open for a public hearing. Joe Schmidt to present.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. As you duly noted, this is a special use permit for the River of Life Evangelical Lutheran Church to allow a church on approximately 1,158 square feet of the building at 3690 South Estrella Parkway in the Estrella Crossing Business Park. You can note the Estrella Crossing Business Park occupies all of this area, but the commercial center is the property at the southwest corner of Elwood and Estrella Parkway. The property to the north is an undeveloped farm right now that is zoned PAD under the Sun DS Farms PAD and contemplates business park uses along Estrella Parkway. To the south, there's an undeveloped commercial lot, and then you have Wilhelm Automotive and other storage area and industrial type uses. To the east, you have Insumet, and to the west is undeveloped and commercial and industrial lots in the balance of the Estrella Crossings Business Park. And you can see the church plans to occupy the section of the building that is denoted in red. It's a relatively small space. And you can see from the seating plan exhibit, there'd be actually a small number of seats within the site. They are proposing regular worship service hours 8:30 to 10:30 on Sunday, an additional education hour service from 10:30 to 11 a.m. on Sunday as well, and then they would have periodic services throughout the year in the evening. A total of 12 spaces are required by the zoning ordinance for a church of this size, and the existing commercial center, as you can see on this plan, has 273 parking spaces developed. This would be a relatively minor change from retail space to a church use, and the required parking for the commercial center should not be impacted. A lot of the parking was built in anticipation of the development of the other pad sites, which have not yet developed, and the owner has acknowledged through a letter that reevaluation of the parking will be necessary before those pads can be developed. Vehicular access is readily available to the site off of Elwood, off of Illini Street, and also off of whatever street that is. During this review of the proposal, we used an alternate citizen review process that was noticed to adjoining property owners within 500 feet. Staff did receive one call from an adjoining property owner expressing concern about the impact of a church might have on future commercial uses, particularly those that might involve the sale of alcohol. However, that individual did not appear at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting and did not submit an objection in writing. The Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended approval of the case with a vote of 6-0, and staff finds that the proposed use is compatible with the existing and planned uses in the area and would not be a detriment to surrounding properties, and have also likewise recommended approval subject to the stipulations in your staff report.
All right.
That concludes
Thank
my
you.
presentation.
Thank you very much. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
All right. Would anybody from the audience like to speak? All right. With that, I'm going to close the public meeting. And now can I have a motion, a second, to consider approving a special use permit subject to stipulation 1-4?
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry, who so moved that? Thank you. Councilman Holman, and a second from Councilman Stipp. So open for council discussion. Councilman Campbell?
Yes, thank you. Joe, how large is the congregation of this church?
Mayor, Lord, Councilmember Campbell, I'm not exactly sure. I think it's relatively small.
How small? 10, 15,
No, I think it's maybe 100.
35?
I thought that was
Pastor
in there.
Sean
Somehow
O'Connor-
I remembered a number. Does anybody
I'd have
have that
said
number?
30.
Sean
35.
O'Connor is here to represent the church if you would like to direct questions.
Yes.
I'd like to know that, if I
Would you
may,
please come
please.
forward and so we can get that answered? Good evening. Thank you for coming.
Hi, I'm Sean O'Connor. I live at 905 East Caledonia Lane in Goodyear, Arizona. I am the president of the congregation River of Life, newly formed congregation. Former members from St. Thomas Lutheran Church that used to be over on Saraville and Van Buren. We're still in the process of getting all our members to decide if they want to transfer into our church or not, so our numbers are fluctuating. Normal attendance on a Sunday is between 25 to 35 individuals. Obviously, some of them carpool or ride together in cars and so on, but that's normal. Not any more than that. So does that answer the question? Or?
It does, and I have one more question, if I may ask you. How long is your lease agreement for that space?
The current lease agreement is for 3 years. We figure that's what we need to get established as a new church and get our name out there. If we're doing well, probably move into a larger area. Hopefully, if we grow, this is just to get ourselves started with our limited income.
Okay. Thank you. Mayor, the shopping center that this is located, that's okay, you can sit now, because what I'm going to say, Joe will answer, is located by a Taste of Italy, and at the end is the Rotary Bingo Hall. Right? Mm-hmm. Am I in the right spot?
Yes, correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure if I read this right, is that they're going to get an exemption just for the 3-year lease. Is that correct?
No, Mayor, Lord, Councilmember Campbell, the way the stipulations are structured right now is that it would be indefinite, but it would terminate upon abandonment of the use. So let's say at the end of 3 years they move out, then that special use would not continue at that location.
Right. Well, what I'm worried about is because we hope that corridor does develop with economic development, and because of the new law about the 300 feet of alcoholic beverages and things, we could not have a CVS pharmacy go at the end of that, and we couldn't have a Fresh and Easy or Fresh and Choice, whatever it's called, anything, or a mom and pop grocery store. And I just want to make sure that we're aware that we're going to limit the use of that shopping center. And I'm all for it, but I would be a lot more comfortable if this special exemption would only be good for the 3-year term, and then let us revisit it in 3 years. Because if we want to put something down and we can't, I just don't want a developer coming to us to want to put something close by, and then we have an indefinite exemption there, and they go to Avondale, if you understand what I'm saying. I mean, I don't want to tie the hands of our economic development people, but I want the church to have a home, and I understand because my church started in someone else's home, and we now have two huge campuses. So I'm all for it, but I just want to be able that the city has an option to look at this again in 3 years. I think that's important. Otherwise, they're there indefinitely, and if they don't grow and they stay small, which is, I don't want them to. I want them to get real big. But if they don't, then we're still limited with the use in there. And that's what worries me, because there's a lot of vacant buildings in there. Or not buildings, but vacancies.
Mayor Lloyd, Councilmember Campbell, imposing a time limit on the special use permit was discussed briefly at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and at that point, the church had indicated resistance to a time limit because of the cost involved in renewing it when the time would come up.
Well, do they have to pay for this exemption?
Generally speaking, if you set a time limit on it and it needs to be reconsidered, we would go through much of the same review activity that we would at the first time through with publication of notice to adjoining properties. So there are some expenses related to it.
Well.
So the Planning and Zoning Commission at least didn't make a requirement for a time limit. And so staff suggested that at a minimum, we at least put a restriction on or stipulation on the special use permit so that it would expire upon abandoning the site, about vacating the site, so that it wouldn't stay there indefinitely. So that was kind of...
But it will stay there indefinitely, Joe, if we don't have some kind of a limit. They could extend for the next 15 years there.
No,
isn't that correct?
If they stay, they could, yes.
Yeah. It's just a thought. I'm thinking economic development. I'm trying to develop in that area. I know there hasn't been a lot of interest, but good times are coming, and I want Goodyear to be poised and be ready to go.
So are you saying that if they're a build-to-suit, a building that we're restricted on the uses that we're going to have because that church is sitting there? That's my question.
It depends on what business comes in or asks. Is that correct, Sherry? Excuse me.
So would someone explain that rule to the public that's listening on here? So if you'll just come forward and explain the zoning on that, or the use permit, please, so that everybody's aware of that.
That's correct, Mayor Lord, council member. So within 300 feet of this existing church and schools in Goodyear, you cannot have a place that has sale of alcohol, and that's open container type alcohol. So there is the potential for a grocery type operation. However, Mr. Schmitz has a diagram that I think is helpful, and council can see here on this diagram. And so it is impacting probably, a third of that shopping center and that which would be on the pad on the hard corner and the commercial and industrial sites to the west. There is certainly the possibility of council imposing a further restriction. It could be the 3-year option, and certainly we have the opportunity to address the applicant if that's of interest.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it. Councilman Osborne?
Well, I appreciate this, and as I look at the 2 undeveloped pads, they would be in direct conflict with that, correct? So Taste of Italy currently does not have a liquor license, I'm assuming?
Those that are in existence already would stay.
Oh, okay, so that's not a problem. Excuse me.
As well as the restaurant license being exempt.
Okay. I'm sorry, repeat that?
The restaurant license is exempt. It's a different series of liquor license.
So if a restaurant was to come forward to build on either one of those pads, they would be allowed a restaurant liquor license?
Correct.
So they would not be, that would not be a problem?
That's correct. It's the
okay,
sale
well then that's a little
liquor.
helpful.
But a grocery store would.
But a grocery store...
Sale of packaged liquor would be permitted as well.
Oh, sale of packaged.
Correct.
So bar occupying would be prohibited. A bar.
A bar would be
Bar could not
prohibited,
be
but a restaurant would be okay.
What about a grocery store?
Grocery store.
Grocery store?
Grocery store would be prohibited.
It would be allowed, actually.
What would be allowed? I'm sorry.
A grocery.
So
Not a
grocery.
bar. We're looking
So
at
the
a
only
bar.
thing is a bar
Correct.
would be
Okay.
okay. Well, that's and what in the case of and this pains me to say, the strong Christian that I am, to have this discussion, but as a business owner, I understand this issue with a retail center, and I have my concerns, and so I wonder about situations where, say, the bingo hall was to have a special event.
Get a special use permit.
Would they be able to have special event? So really, at the end of the day, all we're talking about is a bar would be affected at this. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Councilman Loretano.
If we could just have a little definition, I guess, on, this may sound weird, but what is a bar? Because right in that circle, there used to be a wine bar.
Yeah, I know
But
that.
is that a restaurant under, I guess, I don't know if they serve food. Does that make it a
So
restaurant?
How much food does one? Yeah. How much food does? What percentage do they have to?
40%.
40% has to be food. Okay.
So if it was set up like it was before where that wine bar was, that would still be considered a restaurant per se for the liquor license, even though it's called a wine bar.
Correct. The state board does monitor rather that sale of liquor versus food percentage for the license to be maintained.
So we're absolutely, not denying something like that because they could do 40%.
That's correct. There is some flexibility in the inline stores that could have other occupancies that would have liquor served.
I gather under food is hors d'oeuvres and chips and all that.
Yeah, they actually
Consider
collect
that?
receipts and
Okay.
monitor. Yes, that's correct, Mayor.
Okay.
Okay.
I have one question for the applicant.
Yes, Osborne.
Sir, I know this is going to sound really silly, but I just want to hear it from you that this church does not have a problem being next to the bingo parlor.
No, we don't. We have a very good working relationship with Vince, and we're currently renting his hall right now until we're able to get our permit and move in. So we don't see any competition. Possibly Wednesday nights,
Or
but
conflict of interest?
no conflict of interest. No,
Thank
no.
you.
Maybe conflict of parking spaces.
We don't host bingos at our church facility. We wouldn't, but we don't
I appreciate
have any
that. Thank
issues with
you.
others who do.
Any other questions?
Yeah, restaurants, hotels, governments.
All right.
I'm not sure on grocery.
Yes.
I think they're.
Mayor, I have a comment.
Yes, Councilman Stipp.
Not that I want to take the last word, but I'm very excited to see the applicant. I'm excited to see us reduce that vacancy rate in the entire shopping center, bring some foot traffic in, whether it only be Sunday mornings. It's traffic, and I wish the church the best of luck in their growth and their planning. And thank you for staying in Goodyear.
No, he's 7.2. Oh,
No,
that's the
that's
next
the
one.
next
That's the next one. Okay. All right.
Sorry.
All right. I'm sorry. I was chatting. Sorry about that. Any other questions from council?
No, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Nancy.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Madam Mayor, just before we go any further,
Okay.
if grocery stores are an issue, I'm not showing that they're exempted. I'm furiously researching over here, but I just want to make sure that if that's a decision point, you're aware that I'm showing the exemptions are restaurants, special events, hotel motels, governments, or golf course type uses. I'm not showing, and bars are included in 300-foot exemption, and I'm not showing the exemption on grocery stores. So if that's an important decision point, if you'll give me a few more minutes to flip
Yes,
through the rest of the
let's take
statutes.
the moment.
Okay.
And just to add to that, to clarify, if we're discussing a grocery store, the square footage there, I don't even know would be appropriate for a grocery store. So that might be a mute subject anyway.
Well, what are the other pads, though, if there's a build to suit? Because we've got other
Yeah.
pads there, so,
The other pads could accommodate, for example, a convenience use of sorts that,
yeah.
Convenient use.
A gas station?
Mm-hmm. And a gas station would sell beer and wine.
that would also be by use permit, of course.
Mm-hmm.
It's on a corner. That's how he seems to be another day.
Well, we're giving the, for
So we're all
those that
gonna
are
sit and
listening,
stare
we're
at me,
giving
huh?
the lawyer a moment to do some checking for us, so.
I just want to make sure that we don't have a big grocery store,
That's not enough room for a
Trader
big
Joe's,
one.
somebody come in and say,
Well, let me tell you, if Trader Joe's would go there, that'd be an accomplishment.
well, yeah, I mean, you just don't know. We just, I don't ever want to go back to this church and say, whoops, we made a mistake. you know, because yeah. It's okay. I tried to look it up, and I couldn't find an exemption for grocery stores, and that's fine. I said what I said.
Madam Mayor, do you want to table this for a few minutes and go ahead and
Yes.
proceed with other items? And
Okay, let's
we
do
can
that.
bring
We'll
it back in a
table
few?
this. Do I need a motion or anything? So, all right, we're tabling 7.1 until we receive more information. So let's go to 7.2, the preliminary plat for the Beck property, approving it this evening, and Joe Schmidt will present. But before I do that, I do have somebody that wants to speak on this. So Joe Husband is here to speak on 7.2. Mr. Husband, you heard my directions before.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, they still are pertinent. Thank you.
No, I understand what you can do and can't do, and nice to be here tonight. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, council members, Mr. Dahlke, and city staff. Thank you for the opportunity to come talk to you about this tonight.
And
As you know,
just so you know, I've asked him to come up before the presentation, so is that all right, Joe, while
Sure.
you're looking around?
As
Right.
long as I would get, maybe if I would get to come back and
All
see
right.
Joe
Okay.
later, but
All
I'm
right.
not
Well,
anticipating that.
We'll kind of reverse that. Go ahead.
So, once again, Joe Husband, representing Phoenix Goodyear Airport, 1658 South Litchfield Road. Here this evening to provide, some airport comments on the Beck property plat approval. That's the item that you're just getting ready to hear about. Signed in on this as neutral. Actually, I drew my own box on the cart. But really, actually, I would say that we're in favor of the development of the property, the replat of the property, and the development of the property to the north of the airport. I think it's good for the airport, good for the community. I also would like to express our thanks to Mr. Schmitz, Ms. Craver, Mr. Stiles, and Mr. Beck, who's the engineer and the developer, for working with us throughout the process. We always appreciate the support that we get from the planning and zoning group here, and that they look out for the best interests of the airport. So the airport specific issues with this particular item is for the protection of our runway approach surfaces and the runway protection zones for runway 21. Runway approach surface is an established slope that goes up from the end of the runway out to where the aircraft are coming in on. So there are certain height restrictions out there. And part of this property is underneath the runway approach surface. We also have a runway protection zone, which begins at the end of the runway and goes out in a kind of a trapezoid that has restrictions on what kind of uses can be developed in those areas, as well as the heights, which usually goes up to in the 40-foot range and beyond. So we are, as I said, very appreciative that the proposed plat, as it's been approved by the Zoning Commission, clearly stipulates that these surfaces are there, and it also clearly stipulates that a building permit approval, when that's applied for, would be they'd need to go through the 7460 FAA process. So really what I'm here today to do is to formally go on the record and just indicate that while we are very much in favor of the development, I think it's a good thing, that we need to be very careful and protective of the airport, and that any development in this area that either is not approved or not compatible for the type of use, or any kind of development in this area that penetrates any of the airspace surfaces, not only restricts our ability to grow and develop in the future, but also potentially reduces our existing capacity today. So, as I said, thank you to staff. They've been very cooperative throughout the process, and also thanks to the developer. But we wanted to make it clear what the airport's position was.
Okay,
Thank you,
great. Mr. Schmidt? So now that you heard that, you can do some reassurance in some of those comments that were made tonight.
Mayor and Council, this subject of this preliminary plat is the vacant property immediately east of the municipal complex that we're in, right here, that away, that east. And it extends from Van Buren Street on the north. Here's our municipal complex that we're in, and then here's Van Buren on the north, Yuma on the south. Extends all the way from one to the other. And then you can see a portion of the airport property lying immediately to the south across Yuma Road. It's bounded by undeveloped industrial properties along to the west, some industrial type properties developed to the north. We have the old crane site to the east with a variety of industrial and various other uses to the east, and as I said, the airport to the south. The plat that's proposed would divide 232 acres into 6 lots of varying sizes. The property has been zoned I-1 light industrial since 1981, and this plat, along with subsequent site plans, will allow for development of warehouse and distribution uses as well as flex industrial uses. The plat also provides for the construction of 143rd Avenue from Van Buren down to Yuma. The roadway, along with associated landscaping, will be constructed with the first development within the plat. And 143rd Avenue currently exists on the north side of Van Buren, provides access to the CCTA and the other properties along Celebration of Life Way. Used to be Fillmore. I had to think a second. There will be a traffic signal installed at 143rd and Van Buren with the construction of the roadway, and a second signal will be installed at 143rd and Yuma when warranted. Staff has reviewed the plat along with all the other departments, and subject to the recommended final stipulations, we find the preliminary plats consistent with the land use zoning standards and technical requirements of the subdivision regulations. It was reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission on July 17th and had a recommendation for approval of 5-0. And there's been no public opposition to the preliminary plat, and staff therefore recommends approval. As Mr. Husband noted, we were well aware of the fact that the property is impacted by the runway protection zone, the approach surface, as well as the noise contour, 65 DNL noise contour for the airport. And stipulations have been included in the recommendation that on the final plat there be notes with requiring disclosure of those surfaces existing. The city is a little bit limited in terms of what we can do in terms of controlling the actual land use, since this property has been zoned I-1 since 1981. There could have been some consideration given perhaps if this was a rezoning versus a plat, but as Mr. Husband noted, that we have advised the applicant, subdivider, developer, as well as Mr. Husband advising them of what is desirable and in trying to gain their cooperation. In terms of land uses, the industrial land use with a low occupancy level, especially if it's industrial warehouse distribution, is desirable at this location and is considered a compatible use with the airport. It's just primarily within the runway protection zone where there's some additional concerns. So the city as well is working with Mr. Husband because of the restrictions on height. The runway protection zone is such at Yuma Road that we have to reevaluate the height of our light poles that will be installed along there as well. So we're aware of that, and we're working with Mr. Husband and the airport to accommodate that. So with that said, that concludes my presentation. Stand for any questions you might have.
We'll have some questions from the council. And since I didn't put it out to the audience, is there anybody from the audience who would like to speak on this item 7.2? All right. So you can discuss it, because I think you have a lot of questions on this. Could I have a motion, please, and a second?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion from Councilman Campbell and a second from Councilman Stipp. All right. Open for council discussion. Councilman Vice Mayor Pizzillo.
Just a general comment. I appreciate you working with the airport and make sure it meets all the requirements, so we do not hinder any growth there at the airport. So, and when I hear from Mr. Cousins out there, or husbands out there, that's all being taken care of. So I appreciate that.
Anybody else? Yes, Councilman Stipp.
Joe, what is the? I'm drawing a blank on this all of a sudden. The time frame from the moment that we now approve the preliminary plat to the time that the applicant has to file for the final plat? What does that refresh my memory?
Mayor Lloyd, Councilmember Stipp, is 1 year.
Okay, so 1 year we can
On the
theoretically
preliminary.
expect to see a final plat.
Or they can request an extension at that point for an additional year.
Okay. Then the other comment I'd like to make on this is, number one, I'm very excited to see development go in here, and I think this is a great opportunity not only for us as a city, but obviously for the property owner, but I'm going to say almost more importantly for the folks in historic Goodyear to have a new development occur down in that area, bring some businesses, which will then bring jobs, which will then bring some traffic, which might help with the retail at the corner of Western and Yuma, or Western and Litchfield. So this is a total win, and I'm very, very excited about it. Appreciative of the applicant. I don't know if they're here tonight to thank, but appreciate their willingness to work with both the city and the airport to do as much as they can to preserve that very important asset for us.
Thank you, Bill. Councilman Osborne?
So I understand this correctly. You've said because it already has the zoning, I know that in previous cases, not necessarily surrounding the airport, but in other areas, excuse me, of our city, we've actually listed different types of businesses that could not occur. So that had to have been at the zoning stage, correct, when we did that. So there's nothing we can do now of saying, and I don't even know what for the airport, I do not know what those industries entail. I mean, what type of thing would be a hindrance to that area? What would it be?
Mayor, Lord, Councilmember Osborne, generally speaking, the incompatible land uses that would be not desirable at that location would be residential uses.
Okay.
And generally places of public assembly. So you think churches, schools, any place where there'd be a large congregation of people at any one time. Those are the types of uses. Even shopping areas are not generally recommended because of the nature of the assembly of people in one place. It's basically, at the Luke Air Force Base, they have not so much what they don't call it a runway protection zone, they have an accident potential zone. So I think Mr. Husband can confirm that most of the incidents that occur usually take place during takeoff or landing. And so that's why they try to get additional area off the end of the runway to provide some additional protections.
Okay, so obviously something we would probably never overturn would be changing the zoning to residential to be around the airport, obviously, I assume so. But other items such as a place of worship or a school, would that have to come before us for a special use permit anyway, just as this church is coming before us now with the commercial area?
Mayor Lloyd, Councilmember Osborne, yes, it would.
So I'm just, making sure that kind of have things in line that it really shouldn't be of issue.
The two areas of concern is use of the property, and basically the FAA encourages airports to protect
and the height.
The use of the property within the runway protection zone. If they had their druthers, they would prefer like it would be farming. There'd be nothing there. Okay. But they do recognize that if there is something there, that it have relatively low occupancy, and then the second thing would be height. And so since this district allows up to 40 feet in height, it is possible that a building built in the very far southeast corner of the lot could penetrate that approach slope. And so that is a concern, and hopefully working with the developer and providing that disclosure and having any subsequent purchaser aware of that they can plan accordingly and try to keep the building out of that area and perhaps use it for something other than a building, maybe for parking or circulation.
I do remember in the past one other use that people didn't appreciate, and that was a cemetery that was looking around there too. Okay, thank you.
You had to bring that up.
I remember that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, Councilman Campbell.
If I may ask a question, Joe, you said that this has been zoned since 1981. Has the EJM Development Company owned the property since 81?
Mayor Lloyd, Councilmember Osborne, that I do not know.
Does Mr. Beck
I
know?
can't imagine EJM not being aware of all of these things. They have been a partner on other areas in Goodyear. Cancer Treatments of America is one of them. I think they're well informed. So I would be surprised, but you know, a rule's a rule. And
No, I
somebody
just
might
wondered
try
if
to
they've
push
owned
it.
it
They're
since
well aware
81.
of
That's
it.
all I
I
want to
just,
know.
I
If
can't
they've
say
owned it
with-
that long. Yes.
Oh, he
Have
is-
they or have
well,
they not?
Hello, I haven't seen you in ages. Please come forward.
Sorry.
That's great. I didn't see him back
Well, he
there,
waved
no.
and I
Hello,
didn't know who
yeah.
he was.
I'm sorry, I just
That's
noticed
okay.
he was sitting in the back. Please introduce yourself to the council, because some of them do not know you, and how long you've been working in Goodyear with landowners.
Mayor, council members, my name's Fred Stiles with EJM Development, and yeah, we have not owned that piece since 1981.
Okay.
I'm trying to guess.
About 04?
You know, Ryan?
2004?
I think it's more like 2005, but it's somewhere plus or
Good,
minus.
good.
And yeah, and we are also the developers of on the north side of Van Buren. We sold off the piece to CTCA and put in 143rd Avenue there, and which is now Celebrate Life Way, and put in all of Bullard, and so you know, that's more of an office-y retail kind of area, and that everybody knows is a little slow. And so what has been discussed, that's what we're trying to do down here on the Beck property, which is industrially zoned, is you know, warehouse, industrial, good uses. We have 5.5 million square feet of industrial space throughout the valley, and we'd like to continue doing that.
Well, we want to thank you. We're excited. And on your request for 6 industrial lots and 1 track, what are you going to do with the 1 track? Is that
the tract.
I don't
is
understand that part. I'm sorry.
It worked out that way because of, I think the tract is this right down here, right? Right. Yeah, it's right down at Yuma. And,
The little small area?
Yeah, Yuma and 143rd on the west side of 143rd. Because we have to have the turning radius for the street.
Okay.
And since we don't own that property to the west of us, we had to kind of push it out a little bit. So that tract is just
So hopefully we can hope that we'll have 6 different things developed in 6 different lots.
Yeah, maybe even
Hopefully.
more. Maybe even more, because we
great.
designed it so that we can even split those those parcels into the 4 to the south.
Okay.
Split those into even smaller parcels.
Well, thank you. We're very happy to have
Thank
you come before us.
Thanks to staff and everybody here. We're so excited, and we're anxious to get building that street. So hopefully we're not going to be coming back. I'm not coming back here
Okay.
in a year asking for an
All
extension.
right, good.
Councilman Osborne, do you have a question for Mr.
Just,
Stiles?
Mr. Stiles, I appreciate everything that you have done in Goodyear so far, you know, surrounding CTCA and this property also. And I would just love to hear you say that you believe the airport is an asset to your land side to you,
Certainly,
your neighbor. Okay.
Certainly, that's one of the reasons why we bought the property that we did.
Appreciate
because
that.
it's a compatible use to what we do.
Okay.
We're not going to be, I mean, no offense to the church, but we don't put churches in.
You want to protect the airport then, too.
Yeah, but it's a compatible use.
Well, I agree.
Our tenants maybe will use the airport, so it could be an amenity.
I appreciate
And that's what we're anticipating in Goodyear.
Thank you.
The tenants will use that. Any other questions? Thank you very much. They needed an opportunity to meet you, so thank you for coming forward, Mr. Stiles. Are we all set to vote, everybody? Okay. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. So let's go on to 7.3. 7.1. We have to go backwards, don't we? Thank you. I'm so glad I have you to remind me. All right, let's go back.
Thank you.
So, do we have the information? And would you say what item you're speaking about?
Okay, we're back on the special use permit for the church, and there's a question about.
And that's
what-
7.1.
Right.
Okay.
And we were doing a little bit more research on what liquor license categories were within the 300-foot setback requirements. And there was a question about grocery stores. So looking at the statutes, those would be Series 9 or Series 10 licenses. Those are within the 300-foot threshold, so they would have to be beyond 300 feet from the church. That setback does not, as we stated earlier, apply to restaurants or any pre-existing type uses. So I don't know if you have any further questions on that.
Yes, Joe?
No.
Please come up.
Oh, yeah, Sean.
If I could just make a statement that wasn't raised with the other party involved in this is the landowner, the property manager, the people who signed the lease and allowed us to lease there. If a grocery store or a liquor store approaches them and wants to move on to that property, they could not renew our lease for after 3 years. And they really have the control, and they can be the bad guys. It wouldn't be the city council, coming in and saying we take that risk by only signing a 3-year lease and that agreement with them. So really, they're the ones that might say the liquor store is more lucrative than the church, and they'll make the decision. We actually asked to be on the other side of the property for possible expansion, and they moved us next to the bingo parlor because their visual is the bingo parlor and the pet store and the adult day program that's going to be on that side, more of a calmer type, and then the Taste of Italy and the hair salon and maybe a bar or something on the other side, which wouldn't be affected by that 300 square foot. That's the way they envision the property, and that's why they moved us from one side to the other when we approached them on the lease.
They're kind of protecting you too,
They're kind
keeping
of
you on
protecting
one
the bingo
side.
parlor
Sure.
and us in the pet store.
Sure.
And the adult program that's going into the middle there.
Yeah.
So.
Good.
Okay. Any other comments? So we're ready for a vote? All right. All in favor say aye.
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 Oppose? The ayes have it. All right. Now we're ready for 7.3. Authorizing city manager to approve the professional engineering services contract with Waterworks LLC for improvements to the 157th Avenue Water Reclamation Facility. Brad Richards to present.
Mayor Lord, council members, thank you for hearing our proposal tonight. As you mentioned, this is for the 157th Avenue Water Reclamation Facility Improvements Project. We have a contract up for your action with for Waterworks Engineering LLC. We thought it'd be helpful to provide a little background on the project and help explain the scope of work. Over the last couple of years, staff had identified some processes, some reliability and maintenance issues at the facility. Earlier this year, staff commissioned an evaluation. And part of that evaluation was to assess the condition, identify issues associated with the current processes and equipment at the facility. Also, to determine the improvements that might be required to obtain a capacity of 6 MGD. So the findings of the evaluation, of course, we knew that we had a plant capacity of 4 MGD. System bottlenecks are identified, and this restricts our ability to re-rate the plant without additional design and construction. Earlier in 2013, well, this year, influent flows had exceeded 80% of our design capacity of 4 MGD, and that equates to the 3.2 MGD. Per county standards, this triggers our design phase. In 2016, the projected influent flows will approach 90% of the design capacity. This is a 3.6 MGD, million gallons per day. This triggers our construction phase to increase the capacity to 6 MGD. I thought this graphic might be helpful as it explains timelines, flow rates, and when we need to begin our efforts. So the green arrow there on the far left at 2013, this is the 80% design trigger of 3.2 MGD of our current 4 MGD capacity. And as you can see, we have some time before we need to begin construction, and that's currently projected to begin in 2016. We also took a look what the 2 MGD expansion is going to buy us in terms of time.
And as you can see from the second green arrow to the right, that approximately in 2021, based on current projections, we'd hit another design trigger. So we have a good 8-9 years between this design trigger until the next one hits. So based on this information, our project objectives and the benefits, we wanted to maintain, of course, wastewater treatment for our existing customers. We want to be able to accommodate residential and commercial development. We need to provide continued A+ reclaimed water for use of the ballpark, as well as as well as other uses currently being evaluated by staff. We also needed to address the critical facility issues and incorporate as part of the improvements for 6MGD. We needed to leverage the facility systems we currently have for a cost-effective expansion. As you know, the plant's located basically on 157th Avenue alignment just north of the river, just west of Estrella Parkway. What we see here is a site plan of the existing facility. And the color coding on the legend on the lower left, you can see a 6MGD. Now the red shading as well as the red titles for each system indicate what would be addressed or what we envision to be addressed in the next expansion up to 6 million gallons a day. As you can see, we have to address the influent sewer. We have to address the pump station, the force main that goes to the headworks, also a filtration, our disinfection system, as well as evaluate our existing aeration basins. The other items you see there in yellow and purple and green are part of what we'd like to take care of in terms of a space planning for the facility, so that we're minimizing any rework or having to come in and tear out anything that we might want to do over the next 7 or 8 years. So further discussion on this issue, we want to address immediate critical issues, and we want to incorporate those into the 6MGD expansion. So what we have an immediate need is we need to replace a temporary above grade 24-inch force main that I identified on the last slide. We want to locate this particular pipe below grade. There was a temporary alignment that was used back around 2009 that was supposed to be temporary, and due to extenuating circumstances, this particular setup has been in use ever since. And it was identified by our staff as well as the evaluation that was done that this is an immediate need that we need to address. We also want to replace the existing sand filters. We want to take an approach that we've used at similar facilities within the city and allow for future expandability at minimal cost. And we also feel that addressing the existing sand filters at the current time will allow us more time in the future before the next trigger hits because of the efficiency of the system of this particular filter type. The timeline for this, we have an APP amendment. It's unfortunately a significant amendment, which just means that there's a longer timeline for approval. And this could run anywhere from 12 to 18 months. So we want to incorporate system for 6 mg capacity for the projected construction trigger begin fiscal 2017. And this would include the other items that were addressed that we don't need to handle right now, but we do need to begin design. And this is the influent sewer, the pump station, the screening facilities, disinfection, contact basin, aeration basins, and a master facility equipment plan for future expansions. In terms of the project funding and budget, this budget was approved in the fiscal year 2014 CIP. The budget was approved for engineering, design, and construction administration services is $740,000. Waterworks Association contract is $699,676, approximately $40,000 less than the approved CIP budget. The project is not encumbered at this time, and we'd be using any additional funds available under the project budget for additional services or contingencies if required during project development. Our staff recommendation is to authorize the city manager to approve
professional services contract with Waterworks Engineering for the 157th Avenue Water Reclamation Facility Improvements Project. We'd also request and authorize the purchase order for Waterworks in the amount of $699,676. Thank you very much, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Presentation. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
All right. Would anybody from the audience like to speak? Could I please have a motion and a second for 7.3?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Loretano, and it was a tie here, so I'll say Vice Mayor Bazzillo has a second. Now open for council discussion. Councilman Stipp.
I have one question. Once we get through this contract period, have these plans been programmed into the CIP already? Like, have they been sitting in there in anticipation that they were coming, or is this something brand new out of the chute?
This is not something that's new. It's been programmed in terms of the design phase, as well as the evaluation that was done to substantiate the timeline so that budgeting could be done in the future, the 2016 timeframe for construction. Does that address what you were?
Yeah, so if I look at Larry, because I know you're going to come back and you're going to say, okay, we're ready to build.
Just to further clarify that answer, the construction of this is funded in the 5-year capital improvement plan, and I believe it is fiscal year 17 that the money's first available, but it has been funded, and this is not anything new. It's been anticipated.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you very much.
Okay. Councilman Campbell.
Yes, I enjoyed your presentation. Thank you. And my question is, for the $699,000, is that going to include all of the design of what we need to build, or is this just going to be identifying to us what needs to be done?
No, basically there's there's about 3 different phases to this, or parts. The first is an overall facility plan for space planning, which is going to allow us to understand what we can ultimately achieve at the plant. The second part is full bid construction drawings, where we'll have a full design for the systems I mentioned, and that'll include specifications and so on. The third part, for 2 sections of what we intend to build, which is a force main and the disc filters, the engineer at this time will also be providing construction services or post-design services, which will include inspection services, change orders, request for information answers, submittal review, approval of construction from the county, and things like that.
All right, will part of these plans include future expansions within that project so that we don't have to go back out to design again? Are they going to identify it for us?
Yes.
Okay.
It won't be a full design, but you'll have your roadmap, if you will,
Okay.
for future expansions beyond 6 million gallons if needed.
Okay, that's good, because we're starting, and we might as well try to figure out how far we have to go, and what's our capacity going to be, and try to get as much out of them as we can, so that we don't have to start all over.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? All right, Brad, nice
Thank you. Thank you very
direct
much.
answering of those questions. Okay, I think we're all finished, so I'm going to ask for a council vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Let's go on to 7.4. We will now consider approving the intergovernmental agreement with the with the El Rio Watercourse Implementation and Management Plan. David Ramirez to present.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'm here to present the IGA for the next stage of the El Rio project. First, I'll give a brief overview of my presentation. I'll quickly show the location and the agency partners, review previous council actions and updates that I've been provided previously. The focus now, or tonight, or the next step would be the development of the El Rio Implementation and Management Plan, and I'll go over the goals. And then the actual action tonight would be the IGA. They would identify the responsibilities of the jurisdictions that are involved. The agency partners are Avondale, Goodyear, Town of Buckeye, and Maricopa County. The project is approximately 18 miles in length. It runs from just west of 115th Avenue along the Gila River over to SR 85. Previous council actions and updates. Back in 2006, the El Rio Watercourse Master Plan was adopted by City Council, actually adopted by all 4 jurisdictions, and it examined the benefits and opportunities and impacts of a wide range of flood control management plans. The following year, 2007, a memorandum of understanding was approved by the 4 agencies, which established the framework for the project and also established the administrative committee, which consisted of the city and town managers as well as the general manager of the flood control district. Earlier this year in May, I came before you at a work session, gave you a project update. Also mentioned that I would be back as soon as the IGA had been formulated to bring that for action. The project update, in the project update, I mentioned that the Administrative Council had agreed to retain a consultant to develop the El Rio Watercourse Implementation and Management Plan, and tonight the action is the IGA. The El Rio Implementation and Management Plan would establish uniform design guidelines across the 4 agencies to standardize them, but also create a list of potential projects with at least 1 project per jurisdiction. It would begin to develop a program for public outreach, which would bring the property owners and the public into the discussion and awareness of the project. And then, funds allowing, it would design at a preliminary level 1 project per jurisdiction, which could be such projects as interpretive trails, overlook, signage, or wayfinding programs. The IGA, before you tonight for action, it defines the responsibilities and costs for the 4 agencies. Avondale will take the lead for actually contracting the consultant services. Then Town of Buckeye will take the lead to oversee the day-to-day activities or the coordination of the consultant activities. All agencies are expected to participate throughout the project and provide feedback according to the schedule and fund their 25% share of the project. The total cost of the consultant service contract is approximately $200,000. Goodyear's share would be 25% or $50,000. So the next steps, if you approve the IGA tonight, the last approval will be the County Board of Directors for Flood Control District. I think they're on schedule to approve it in early October. Then Avondale would advertise the RFQ for the consultant services. All the agencies would participate in the consultant selection, development of the scope and fee, and the issuance of the contract, which would be issued by Avondale. We'd start the project. Again, Town of Buckeye would take the day-to-day responsibility of running the project. All the agencies would be involved in the meetings and in reviewing the products that come out of the work. And then staff would provide mayor and council with periodic project updates and solicit your input at appropriate times. That's my presentation. Be happy to answer any questions.
I appreciate that. All right, could I please have, are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Anybody from the audience would like to speak? Okay, with that, will the city clerk please read the resolution by title only?
Adopt resolution number 131561, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Avondale, town of Buckeye, and the flood control district of Maricopa County for the development of the El Rio water course implementation and management plan, providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. Could I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Campbell and a second by Councilman Osborne. Open for council discussion. Councilman Stipp?
I just have one question. It's pretty straightforward. It's along the CIP line again. How much money do we have set aside in the CIP for this project going into the future?
We have $50,000 for our share of the MOU, but there's, to my knowledge, there's nothing set aside in the 10-year CIP.
So beyond that, this is it?
Until it's programmed.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
For this program, but I was going to ask a little explanation of what the El Rio also is looking for, not just the flood plain, but other. I mean, what's the walkway, all the things that they're thinking of the river. I mean, there's more to this, so I don't want you to think that this is
wasted,
just it.
yeah.
There was a plan, and it was going to help. And in fact, in Goodyear, we were talking about a resort on the King property at that time. And if you remember, we're going to have the water fill the river, and it's going to be wonderful. And it still may someday. But so when we talk about this, yes, for this one isolated, but there will be more, I believe, proposals coming forward. Is that correct? Am I?
Yes, Madam Mayor, if I may. The part of the purpose for the design guidelines that they'll be going through is when a King Ranch type development comes in, those are already in place that will then help in that development as far as what they can do up and near the river. So they're aware as well as what would be planned for it and how it impacts their development.
Yeah, I just wanted council to be aware of that, and hopefully someday that happens and we get a resort in Goodyear, and that's the perfect place. Councilman Osborne?
Well, appreciate it, David, and I'm thankful that it's resurfacing. This was something that I sat on as a committee a few years back when it was originally brought forward. And, as we plan for the future, this is something that is certainly a regional approach that needs to be that way, because we all have that river going through our cities. And so when everybody's talking together, then, everyone's on the same page of the best things to be developed around it. And so I really do appreciate that.
Thank you for saying that, because it is a discussion, and some of the other cities have developed it even a little more than that. I know that Avondale has, and so we're sort of the next. Yes, Councilman Campbell?
Is the Cotton Lane Bridge any part of this area?
It's within the corridor.
It's within the Rio. Within the corridor,
yes,
so we can kind of say that's part of our project already. We've already done something nice.
Well,
sort of.
And we have, actually, the construction incorporates some of the identification.
It's got great carvings under that bridge, so when people go down that, it is an art.
It's a beautiful bridge. There, so it really is.
It was designed with that in mind. There's some, there's some components in the design that identify the El Rio project.
Thank you. Okay.
So council discussion is finished. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Homan?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Pizzillo?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Okay, let's go to the information. Does council have any comments, recommendations, or reports to make? Vice Mayor Pizzillo.
I think, as most of you know, I'm on the board of the Southwest Lending Closet, a nonprofit organization that, and so is Councilwoman Holman down there, an organization that gives out medical equipment, non-motorized, to anybody who needs it, up to 90 days. And I think our last report, if I'm not mistaken, well over a couple hundred people had come and got equipment from us for the past month, well over a couple hundred. Well, we support them as part of our 501c contributions, and as a result, there's a little something here I want to give to the mayor on behalf of the city, in which the Southwest Lending Closet is recognizing their contribution, and without them, we would not be able to succeed moving forward. So, Mayor.
Hey, awesome.
Let me read read this off. It says, presented to the City of Goodyear from the Southwest Lending Closet. You are the key to building our success. That's a great saying. So it's a blue crystal block, and it's very well done, and we appreciate that. We get so much out of the things that they do, so we're greatly appreciated. Would anybody else like to comment about the closet, because lending closet?
Sure.
Any other comments?
Okay.
Well, since I've retired, I've had the opportunity this summer to spend some time actually volunteering at the closet, which I had never been able to do before. And I'm so proud of the work they've done there. That is an all-volunteer organization. We have one paid person, and that is the man who sanitizes the equipment when it comes back in. All of the rest of it, the management, the bookkeeping, is all done by volunteers. We have an amazing community, and it cannot be overstated how much the support of the city means to the closet, but it is an amazing group of people, men and women, who keep that organization thriving. I think to date this year we've served around just under 1,400 people in our transactions. So it's a good thing we're doing.
Great. Any other comment?
I do.
Yes. Councilman Osborne?
I have a paper.
Well, you can, it's okay, you can go right off that paper.
Okay, so just to let you know of some things, as a few here at the table, we attended the Arizona League of Cities, and that's always a wonderful conference where I think we solidify relationships within our regions and our state, and that's always important. I did attend the Central Arizona Project Luncheon. Over the last 6 years, I've attended that a few times, and it was the first time I felt that CIP was actually able to give us a positive look at the future for the Navajo Generating Station. And I know that Sherry has always been interested in that, and so I brought her this to fill you in. And thank you for holding down the fort while we were gone. And also attended the Community Features Development Trends, and our own Greg Bialy with Newland and Estrella Mountain Ranch was one of the speakers. And I appreciated the fact that he stood with the cities in regards to impact fees and development. And I thought that was great to hear of his stance. Also, you know, when I came back, I realized that I've been gone for about 6 weeks. And so with all of the storms that we had, I decided that I needed to go tour Goodyear. And I was driving around, and, you know, everybody did a great job cleaning up after all of these storms. But I did happen to notice that it seemed like we had a lot of retail vacancies. And I reached out to Harry Paxton because I was concerned about that, and I was looking for the figures. And he actually got back with me, and I was pleasantly surprised that it was better than I thought it was. And I think that the information that he had would be beneficial for all of us to have updated on, because it was like, oh, this place was all of a sudden gone. It just felt like things were worse off than actually they were, and so I did appreciate that. I did have now I'm the chair of the Human Services for MAG, and we had an orientation with my new vice chair, and really I think discussions about the relevancy of the committee and goals going forward are important. We also had the Chamber's BRAC committee, and I can attest to Harry being there and Debbie DeVinny, and I know that committee going forward is also going to have some new energy and new direction, and also discuss the tourism study. And lastly, I think every one of us attended the wonderful pancake breakfast and remembrance celebration the fire and police put on Sunday morning. So that was nice. And lastly, if anyone would like to be a mentor to homeless teens, the Homeless Youth Connection is taking applications for mentorships, and I believe we're looking for about 12 more. Thank you.
Great. Yes, Councilman Loretano.
I just wanted to, I got a compliment from one of our city staff. I wanted to let everybody know. I know we're a read-on city, and our librarian, Laura Morris, up at Estrella did a great event about reading this last week in the evening and everything. And she wanted to give the city staff, and this goes out to Matt for doing such a great job with the reading challenge. She is so excited. She's like, can you ask him if we can do that again? So I wanted to let, since we're a read-on city, I want to let you all know what the great compliment that he did, and that it really did make an impact, and they're dying to do it again, so.
Thank you, Matt. That's great to hear. Councilman Stipp.
Well, as long as we're giving staff kudos, I want to note three people that we heard this week. We celebrated Lilly Schuett's retirement. Lilly has been with the city as a neighborhood services, not manager, liaison. And
we've changed
the title about 3 times since she came. But Lilly had always been a great force and a great communicator throughout our city. So I know she's probably not listening, and everyone else that's here. But I just wanted to.
Someone will get the news.
Someone will get it. But I think Lilly needed to hear that, how much I appreciate it, especially working with her in historic Goodyear. The other, we heard this week, we're going to lose a couple of long-time employees. Brett Birmingham from planning, moving on to greener pastures. But those that are supervising Brett, please let him know how much I appreciate the work he's done. It makes my job as a council member a lot easier with good staff. And last, but clearly not least, Dean Kokenauer, our risk manager, is moving on. I was privileged to be on the committee that actually brought Dean here when I was an employee, and we knew we'd have a handful when he came. But Dean has done a great job for us for a little bit over than 10 years, and I wanted to give my personal appreciation to Dean, despite some recent rockiness in our personal relationship. I still think acknowledging what Dean has done for us, he's innovated a great deal that we are so very lucky to have had Dean in our presence, and he'll be a very tough act to follow. So,
I really appreciate you, and I think that we are all raising our hands to those comments you made tonight. We appreciate it, and absolutely agree with you on that. Any other comments? Okay, I just want to mention, I don't know if you've got it in your water bill, but there's a contest going on, and I'm very pleased with that. Living in the Desert Means Water is Scarce. H2 Own It Landscape Award Contest challenges homeowners to manage water responsibly by making choices that enrich life, reduce waste, and hold down costs. And this was sent out with the bill. So if you haven't seen it, I didn't. My husband brought it to my attention. Because he pays all the bills, and showed it to me, and he talked a lot about it, and Ron doesn't talk about water that much, so it's very impressive. So please look at it and pass the information around and make sure people partake, because this is just a great attitude, because it is so important how much we use water in our homes and how much times we waste it. And this is part of that water talk tonight. It also is our responsibility and the citizens to use less water. The other thing, I went to the Estrella Hall Expansion Conference Center grand opening. Spectacular. Now, I'm guilty of just driving down Thomas and never going McDowell and around to the back of that university. But I've asked staff, for those that have not taken a tour of the university and the new buildings, to please take the council and do this.
Good.
It's extraordinary.
Thank you.
The conference center seats around 350, but it looks like it, and you've been there, it looked like it was more than that could be in there. They're going to rent it out so the city can use it and other usages. But the main thing is, in the conference, they have got these big screens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screens around this room, so you can sit at the table. Doesn't matter where you're sitting at the round table, and there's a screen for you to look at. So it was really great, and the communication system and the sound system, and well, it was top notch. And So you know they're going to have the Veterans building opening soon, and so I encourage everybody to go.
Wednesday.
Wednesday. So if you're there, you might want to take a look at some of these other buildings. But I know they're not in Goodyear, but they're still part of Goodyear, and we partner with them in many, many ways. And you'll be astounded at this growth of this university. So I just want to give them kudos for that. Okay, with no other comment, I'm going to turn it over to the city manager.
Yes, Mayor and Council, in terms of follow-up, we had some from the work session. I won't go into those. For the regular council meeting, a couple of things. One is we'll pass along the kudos. Thank you very much for recognizing staff and for those that are moving on or retiring as well. And then we will share the retail vacancy figures. Thank you, Councilmember Osborne, for bringing that up, and we'll continue to give you updates as far as economic development, but we'll get those to you. As far as one notice, if you will, the Parks Master Plan, they have a public input meeting. It's this Thursday, September 12th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. That's going to be held at the Desert Edge High School for the public that might be watching this. That's on Yuma and just west of Estrella Parkway. And what we're looking for from the public, and certainly council's invited as well, is what do we want for future parks, open space, trails, libraries, and also art and recreation facilities. So looking for a lot of input for the Parks Master Plan. So we're looking forward to what comes out of that.
Great.
That's all I have.
I didn't make a comment before, but on the information Joanne got about businesses and closing, during the downturn, we did get several reports on that, and I used that out in the public because the public thought that we were losing all of our businesses, and we were actually gaining many times. So for every business that opened, maybe two closed, two would open. So the trend has been very high, and I'd be surprised if we see that figure, if it's dropped any, because oh yes, yeah, come on up, Sherry.
Mayor, council members, so when the question arose, and as a result of our discussions actually on the regional mall, we were doing some research on retail vacancies and so forth, and so our CoStar database allows us to run those reports, and what we recognized is that Goodyear is sitting right about 12% vacancy, down from a 32% vacancy during the height of the recession. So that's the good news. We are just 1 point above the region at 11% Phoenix-wide.
1 point is 1 point at this stage, huh?
That's correct, and nearly 4 million square feet of occupied retail space and just over 500,000 of vacancy.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? Are we all?
I have
Councilman
just
Osborne.
one, and it's funny that you had just spoke about the Parks Master Plan discussion, because actually what I was going to ask you was that during the time that I was in Boston and Chicago, we always talk about placemaking, and we talk about our parks, and we talk about development and what's special about areas. And something that I noticed that we don't have here, but that was very heavy in Boston and Chicago. You're probably going to giggle, but it was chess. I mean, I would see these groups of people standing around. I'm like, oh, what's going on? Some kind of, street dancer or something. And they were actually into these chess tournaments. And they would have, in the parks, along the streets, at the resorts, different. It was, whether it was, I'm sure some of you have seen at resort places where they have the life-size chess pieces. And I would imagine that would be pricey when somebody took off with one of those. But, in other areas, they had these chess boards that were, built-in tables that people were just hanging around playing chess. And I thought, wow, that's something different we could have at our parks. So I just threw it out there, because when I saw the amount of people that were into that, and it was just something different, and we're always looking for place-making areas, I thought, well, that's something we've never, at least I've seen, never tried. So I thought I'd throw it out there.
Thank you for your idea. Councilman Campbell has something to
I have something to share with the city manager. I brought some photos, and Mr. Ramirez, I'd like you to look at these as well. So this is taken.
Tell them why you were there.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I went shopping this afternoon to Walmart on Estrella Parkway. I am parked in front of Estrella, and I am beside the drainage ditch, the retention basin beside Estrella, and the wall, the tree there is in the middle of the basin. The wall at the back is a retainer wall that separates Walmart from a housing development. As you can see, they have trees down. Now, I don't know that there's, it's not city responsibility, but somebody needs to tell somebody about the trees down.
And I obviously didn't see them.
And the water is there, and the water this isn't just from today, because there is a stagnant film on top of this water. Now, as you can see there's the film, and I'm thinking mosquitoes and everything else. So I got out of my car, took my iPad out, and I walked the whole end. On one end is a drainage, oh gosh, what do you call them, David? The great big thing that the water comes out of? A culvert. There's a culvert on the, I don't know, north, south, east, west, but on the right-hand side is a culvert. And at the end of that, which would be Roosevelt Street, it stops. So the water goes from the culvert all the way to Roosevelt. It's deep enough that I don't know that children play in the Walmart parking lot, but some child could actually drown in there. And I'm very concerned. It's doing the job it's supposed to do, but the water should drain somewhere. Don't you think? I mean, I would think. And I'm just concerned about it. And the water, it's full of trash. It just looks awful. And at the very end, at the way far end, look through the trees and you'll see something yellow. Those are just dead trees that have been down for a long time because they're laying there. When they fall over, they're green. So maybe after a month or two, they turn yellow when they're really dead. But they're just dead trees laying there. It just looks terrible. So I thought a picture was worth a million words. And I didn't call Nathan or David because I don't know who's in charge. Because it's, doesn't the owner, whoever owns that shopping center, are they responsible for that stormwater drainage area?
Yeah, this would be, Councilmember Campbell, this would be a code compliance issue, so we can certainly follow up. And thank you for the photos.
I'll be happy to send them the photos. But I'm worried about them not draining, because this could have been from the water from the storm 2 weeks ago. And that's what worries me, that it's full.
Yes, and the other is engineering can certainly help out as well. So we'll definitely take a look at it. Thank you for bringing it.
You're welcome.
Attention.
And I did walk to where the culvert is, and it's not clogged up. It's not, full of stuff, but it's still open to drain. So after the rain today, since my street was flooded.
Oh, after tonight.
I don't know what it's going to be when I go home. I'll probably have to go in another gate, but the runoff in the Bullard Wash was so that they shut down Bullard Wash again for us. So we have to go out a gate and go all the way around to come in to go home. So I'm sure that that's part of we're going to have that, but I'm just worried about that area.
My question is, when we have these kind of weather conditions, does code go out and check? Or, do we have a schedule? If we don't, we need to get one, and we need to find out. Yes. I appreciate it, Sherry.
Mayor, council members, so this would be an occurrence where if it weren't brought to our attention and wasn't part of a regular evaluation, we would not catch it. So thank you. Please send me the photos, and we'll be out first thing in the morning.
She's a Hawkeye, I tell you.
Yeah, I thought Joanne was going to talk about it when she said she took a ride around, and I thought, if she talks about my water.
It's very concerning. The standing water and the trees down in the right-of-way are unacceptable, so we will be on that first thing in the morning.
Thank you. And also, if you don't mind checking the retention basin on Roosevelt itself, because as I turn the corner to turn left to go northbound, I could still water there, too, right by the Baskin Robbins. But, those retention basins are to get the water, but I don't know how long the water's supposed to stay there.
Yeah, it typically has about a 12-hour to 24-hour recedence,
yeah,
but we'll take an engineering team out with us as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Nothing else? Meeting adjourned.
Can we note the time? What would you call that?
Yeah.